Hello, my name is Ivan.
And this is Moritz.
And welcome to the Clever Ramblings podcast, where it's basically just two friends who talk about whatever we feel like. So today we'll be talking about why I believe that Kanye West is a genius. We'll also be talking about This Is America, the new music video by Childish Gambino. And we'll be talking about basically why it's great to travel. And lastly, we'll finish with Google Duplex, the new AI system that is supposed to be like your new assistant. So M, I call him M by the way because no one can really pronounce his actual name because it's German and it scares me. So
everyone can except you, but it's okay.
Anyway, plus he's white, so it's close to Eminem, so we're just gonna call him M. So M, what do we
Let's start with Kanye.
Do you not? yeah, that's exactly what we said we was going to start with, right? So, I believe that Kanye West is a genius.
Yeah, I don't.
And you see why we? This is why we can't have nice things. So, but despite recent tweets that Kanye has made, I still hold that he's a genius, and I even say that what he's been saying is not all that bad.
It's the way he says it is just dumb. In the context of of Trump, it's just dumb to say. If he would say that about any other thing, but saying especially Trump, he loves Trump. I think that's just dumb, and that's not a smart way to do it. Especially in the type of climate that is right now in the States with Trump and everything. So
look at you talking like you know the States.
I do.
Look at this. Look at this. Well, yeah, okay. He definitely picked the wrong person to say.
Yeah, if he would say that about any other guy, I don't know, somebody who's more liked than Trump, which is not really an accomplishment to do, but if he would talk about any other guy, it's just fun what he says. But in the context of Trump and what the shit he does, and yeah, I think
don't be talking about my president. You know, he's listening to this podcast.
I know the NSA is probably listening to everyone's podcast. So.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, but here's the thing. When he said he liked Trump, right, he says he likes two things about Trump, which he can... So, to give you the backstory, so Kanye was first, he was a producer.
Yeah.
And so he made beats for rappers like Jay-Z and other well-known rappers now. But he was mainly under Jay-Z and the label Rockefeller. And basically, but Kanye always wanted to rap. But no one really believed in him, especially I don't even think really Jay-Z believed in him. It was really like Jay-Z's partner by the name of Dame Dash, and also his other partner, Kareem Biggs Burke, who believed that Kanye has some talent for rapping. And so everyone told him he would freestyle, and everyone, they were like, no, just make beats, just don't do that. And then, of course, eventually he got a shot, and then he became one of the biggest rappers of all time. The same with fashion. I mean, he made a whole album about it called Yeezus. Not my favorite Kanye album, but basically where they said, okay, well, now you're a rapper or you're a musician, you can't go into the world of fashion. So basically, all of his life has been kind of like people telling him that he can't do stuff. So he's always been underdog. And so in the same way, he sees Trump, who, okay, yeah, Trump is very privileged and but in the political realm, he had no experience. He was underdog, and no one said he was good. Everyone was like, no, he's no way he's going to win. Right. Yeah. So in that same vein, he sees, okay, that resemblance, that underdog story, that coming from nothing in whatever particular area or occupation you are and coming on top. The second thing that he said that he loves about Trump is the fact that Trump says whatever the fuck he wants to say. Which, again, I don't agree. I'm from Philly. I definitely don't fuck with Trump like that. But the point is like he says Trump is not politically correct. He'll say whatever he's thinking or tweeting or whatever the fuck, and no matter how ignorant or whatever it is, you for the most part you know where basically what is in his mind. And the same with Kanye West. When Kanye West was saying, "Oh, I don't, George Bush doesn't like black people," or whatever he said that was very politically incorrect, they got him into a lot of trouble. Whether it's a Taylor Swift incident or anything like that, he always says what he wants to say, whether you like it or not, whether you care about his struggles in fashion. He always speaks his mind. And so those two things are why he said he loves Trump. And the thing is, he actually explained those things. And others have explained what he meant who have talked to him. But no one wants to listen to it because everyone wants to talk. Everyone wants to they want to read things and they want to react purely from emotion. and they don't necessarily just want to just look at what he read and listen to his interviews. And yeah, he said like slavery was a choice, and I mean, I didn't, of course, being black, I don't think that he views a very poor choice of words to say that, but I got what he was saying. He was talking about mental slavery, mental slavery, and even though I think that it's still unfair to sort of criticize slaves for being mentally, I mean, because slavery was,
it was no choice.
Yeah, there was no choice, and it was a very fucked up situation that black people in the States are still dealing with now. But when he further explained it, I got where he was coming from, but you could just tell that he's uninformed and he doesn't know. But I think that people shouldn't judge him as much because, too, again, he's even admitted he's suffering from mental illness. And so if we know these things about Kanye, right, and then why is people so ready to demonize him? I don't get it. Musically, to me, there's no question that he's a genius. Like, he has probably the best catalog of any hip hop artist, and one of my favorite, of course, my top 4 favorite rappers are fucking Lil Wayne, not this M, because this M can't rap to save his life, but I'm talking about Eminem and Kanye, and this is what I said: Lil Wayne, Pac, Eminem, and Kanye.
Yeah, but still, like, he may be a musical genius, but not the way he acted with the Trump situation. You have to inform yourself about the policy. But if you would say that to him or like keep it in private, yeah, sure. But going out on Twitter and saying that without informing yourself first about the policies he does, like, do you think that he has any idea what Trump stands for and what he's pushing for?
Well, no, I mean, someone even asked him, like, I was watching an interview and someone, I think, by another rapper named T.I., shout out to T.I., by the way. You should sponsor our podcast if you really, from black man to black man, you know what I mean? I understand you should sponsor our podcast. But the point is that I think T.I. said that he asked, he talked to Kanye about like the travel ban that Trump did way long ago. Yeah. And Kanye said he didn't even know he didn't even know about the travel ban.
Yeah.
So he's very uninformed, and so I think that the problem is that when you're like, I put part of the blame on the people, is that we give too much of a shit about what celebrities have to say. Like, I don't go, like, I go to Kanye for the message in his music or what he's talking about. Like, I go for him for his music. I don't go to him to learn about slavery. I don't go to him to learn about politics. I have my own fucking opinion on all these things. And so for me, I don't go to any celebrity and look at them like this, right? I go to people who know about the shit, or I just read it for myself. And so the thing is, when we worship these celebrities, especially to me, like, this happens because, I've been to Germany, I've been to UK, and all these other, like, some other countries, and it's not the concept of celebrity they don't care that much about it. So in the States, I see it a lot, where we care a lot about what these celebrities say. And really, honestly, just because you're famous, just because you have millions of dollars, does not mean all of a sudden you've gained all this knowledge. It just means you're famous and rich. That don't mean anything. You could be famous and rich and not be educated in certain topics, just like any other person. The only thing that separates them from other people is that they have more money, and so we shouldn't look at them, or maybe they're slightly more attractive, but that's not another story. But that doesn't mean that they're informed, and so I never give.
But then that's a problem of society overall.
Exactly,
well, like the American.
So do you
culture.
do you blame Kanye West? And
I blame like both, like the culture, because people are always, they want this excitement, and it's also.
And he's not talking about hip hop culture, so don't come for us. I'm not. He's not talking about hip hop. We all, I definitely love hip hop, but he means American culture.
American culture, like this celebrity thing.
Oh man, black people is really gonna come for you, man. Holy shit! Talking about the culture, hip hop culture.
Not the hip hop culture.
There you
go. This, like, what the actors. The same thing with like the elections. We want some actors to be your. You want some actors to be your presidents only because they're like famous and shit. Like, if somebody in Germany, let's say some actor would be like, "I'm gonna be your next chancellor," they'd be like laughed out of the room. Like, you don't know anything about policy. Why would you be able to lead our country? But in the States, it's like, yeah, sure, let's like get someone who is like this big famous actor, and then everything's gonna be all right. Like, that's such stupid. Or Oprah Winfrey or something like that, or like some actor that didn't have to do anything with politics for like the whole life. thinking that they can solve all the big problems.
Right, but to me, that doesn't. What I'm saying is, to me, that doesn't take away from his genius at all.
Yeah.
And so,
like the music, that's no debate.
Right, but people are saying that basically because some of his statements appear to contradict some of the messages he had in his music, that takes away from his musical genius. And I say that, to me, that doesn't, because there's plenty of examples throughout history of people who are very smart or very phenomenal in one area, but they're not good all around. And so I think that we should just stop listening to what Kanye has to say about Trump and politics. Because obviously he doesn't fucking know what he's talking about, or at least he's in a mental space where he's just uninformed.
Yeah.
And so just listen to his music, and that's it. Like, but to me, that doesn't take away from a person's genius. Like, just because he's not the political person and he doesn't agree with you, doesn't mean that he's no longer a genius. It doesn't take from
in the music, right? Because just putting that out there means like you're really a genius if you put it out there. The thing with Trump, I think like that's what a genius does. Like you must be a little bit.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Einstein married his first cousin.
Yeah, well,
so
that's love. That has nothing to do with
it. Stop it, Ems. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's plenty of examples of people through history that have been geniuses, but have been fucked up in some other way. Right? Like, you could even say, "Oh man, this is bad." And especially we're in Germany. I hope they don't, come get me. I love Germany, by the way. But like, for example, Hitler.
Yeah.
Right. Hitler. Oh, maybe you don't want to comment on this, but in my opinion, Hitler was a very terrible human being, but the way that he was able to move the masses like that and able to convince a whole fucking country damn near to come behind his cause is some type of the rhetoric he was using, the way that he spoke and the way that he articulated himself for that time period was revolutionary, and it was in a way genius. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a good person. It doesn't mean you've necessarily, like, obviously he I wouldn't look up to him as a role model.
But that was the whole situation. You could take anybody. I would bet you could take anybody if you would, like, there's always the thought experiment. Like, you heard that, like, when he was 4 years old, he was saved by a priest. He was drowning. And there's always that if this priest wouldn't have saved him, would World War II happen, or would the Third Reich happen? And I bet it would. You just need some guy who is a little bit charismatic, put him in this situation, you would have the same thing.
So you say there's nothing special about Hitler? It was more that...
It was more the whole situation. Like, the people were not satisfied with the situation. There was this, after the financial crisis that started in the US, like, people didn't have any jobs, and then this guy comes along, gives them job, gives them holiday, like, all this stuff. It wasn't, like, revolutionary. It just needed one guy who, like, could mobilize the masses, and I think, like, it's nothing special. Like, you watch videos of him, he's just screaming like a douchebag, like, just screaming and, like, insulting everybody who's not, like, this Aryan type. So I think, like,
you're saying he was more of an opportunist.
Yeah, he was more of an opportunist. Like, if you change him with some other guy who was, like, in the party there, I bet, like, anyone would have done the same thing. It was just this situation back then. But yeah, I have to give him in that he was apparently charismatic. I don't see it because I just look at this guy screaming all the time. But I think, like, he wasn't a genius at all. He just took the chance to be like this leader.
But what I'm saying is, even what I'm saying is that genius, at least in my opinion, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily morally good, or it doesn't mean that you're good in all areas.
Yeah.
Right. You could be what's called like a singular narrow genius. So you could be a genius in mathematics, but that doesn't mean I want to talk to you about engineering or I want to talk to you about politics, because your mind is made for mathematics.
Yeah.
Right. Same with someone who's genius in philosophy, like Plato or some other people. That doesn't necessarily mean like they were like the best physicists or you know what I mean? We don't look to them for physics.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, is that musically, yes, and in the past, yes, he's been what we call, in the States, woke. Like, he's been aware of social issues and stuff. But I mean, people change, and it's unfortunate that he's so out of touch now. But to me, as long as his music is dope, and his music is not, like super, like, let's make America great again type shit, like, then I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I'll still listen to his music as long as he has something to say. And I think he'll have something to say.
Yeah.
So I don't
he's
care about
what he's... not a bad person, and
right,
and so you can listen. Like, if he was a mass murderer, I'll be like, even if you're a musical genius, I won't listen, but just because you say you can still listen to his music.
But I can always separate the person from...
Yeah, but I don't want to support that. Like, not that I see him as that, but I don't want to support the mass murderer by buying his records, so like listening to his records. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true, but you could stream it and figure out other ways of listening.
We don't promote this here on the podcast, by the way.
Just saying. There's always ways you could go around.
So, I think we should move on. We wandered from Kanye West to the Third Reich, I think.
Yeah. That's why it's just called... That's where the rambling part of this podcast comes from. We just kind of random. So what was the next topic?
This is
put it like this: Kanye West is still a genius, in my opinion. So
I disagree.
Shout out to Kanye. If you want to sponsor this podcast, you can always sponsor this podcast. However, I would not wear the "Make America Great Again" hat. That's not happening. I would not be able to go back to Philly if I did some shit like that. Oh, by the way, like I said, I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the United States. Same place as Meek Mill. He's free now, so yeah. Shouts out to West Philly.
Let's move on with This Is America.
Oh, you don't care that I'm shouting out like my hood? Like you really? Like, we gonna do this right now? You don't. You need to appreciate where I come from.
I appreciate where you're coming from and how you made it all the way here.
Exactly. There should be like a statue made to me. Anyway, let's go to This Is America.
Yeah. Speaking
of American, Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, just released his very, very interesting music video called This Is America. And basically, if you haven't seen the video, of course, you have technology, so just Google it, please. But basically, he's doing various dances, which are sort of which I found out are sort of references to the blackface era, and basically, like, Childish Gambino is a like sort of a distraction to what's going on in the background, where there's shootings and they're handling the guns with care, but they're dragging people's bodies away. And there's even I saw like there's even like in the video there's a like death, like there's a white horse that's riding.
Yeah, the apocalypse. Yeah,
right. And so it has all these imageries in it. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, the first time I saw the video, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I was not like, I have a friend and she was like, oh, this is amazing and this video is amazing. And I said, well, I mean, it's okay. Like, but usually Childish, that's kind of how, like, when he used to rap back in the day, like, he was more and more rap. And so I liked a lot more of his older stuff. But newer Childish Gambino, like, when he starts singing more and everything, it has to grow on me. So I don't usually like it immediately. But I've watched the music video maybe like two times after that. So now, and I've watched, videos about it, explaining things. And so I think it's a real dope video. I think that, it's bringing awareness maybe to a new audience that has over 75 million views already, which is big. But I always say, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I always say when it comes to guns or when it comes to all the images he's talking about how black people are treated and how, sort of like the dancing at the end was maybe a symbol, like we dance our pain away. So like we go to the club and we sort of to escape these things. And I definitely can tell like from like coming from Philly, like that people, you do other things, like you do drugs or you drink or you do things in order to escape the pain that you're feeling at that time. And so the problem is, like, these music videos are great, but I always say like this: people have been making music videos about these topics for decades.
Yeah.
What are we going to actually do about it? Right? What is actually going to happen? Because it's different if you're a person that just watched the video and you understand the video. Like, as a black person coming from the background that I came from, like, I get what he's saying. It's like, okay, yeah, fine, okay, good. Like, I get this, I agree. This is a problem. But if all we're doing is identifying this as a problem and we're not actually doing shit in order to make that not a problem anymore, then it's like, is it all to waste? You know what I'm saying? Because what do you do for Black Lives Matter, man? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. What could I do? I'm in Germany. I can't demonstrate or anything. I'll be the only one here. But coming from Germany, I basically don't understand this gun thing you Americans have. Why you want your guns so badly, and I see shootings happening all the time, and then in the media for 1 to 2 months, and then you just move on. And that's also, I saw referring to that in the music video. They are just shooting, for example, the choir that was obviously a reference to the church shooting in Charleston, and then he just keeps dancing. And I think that's one of the biggest problems.
Because
you even now with the recent shooting in, what was it again? Where they were in the school shooting? Parkland, exactly, yeah. They were very mobilizing people, the students. But now you barely hear anything. Or at least I barely hear anything. Maybe in the States it's different. But
no, it's the same. We always say it's kind of this.
And this was one of the bigger movements. What I saw online was this big
March
rally.
For Our Lives.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's also got a little bit quieter on this side.
But that always kind of happens, because what it is it happens, and then that happens, and then there's this period of protests and a lot of media coverage for maybe a week or 2 weeks, and you hear from the victims, and then all of a sudden it kind of dies down. For example, if the one that hit me closest to home was the Orlando shooting that happened at that nightclub, because one of my friend, he was a friend when I was in grade school. Yeah. And his sister was the youngest victim. She was only 18, and she was from Philly. And I when I was younger, because we all went to the same school, so we knew each other, and so that was huge media coverage in Philly. And they talked to her friends, I think, and everything was a huge media coverage. But then somehow it always fades out of course, to people the victims and their family. It never goes away. Yeah. But then I think even after the Parkland shooting, Congress voted against gun reform, I think. So it's once that happens, it's it never. We need to find a way to really have the conversation, really talk about it. But what I tell people all the time is guns. You're never going to get the states to get rid of all their guns. It's just never going to happen. It's so ingrained in our culture, number one. And two,
how would you do that? You walk up to people and be give me your guns?
Here's the thing. If all of a sudden the police were oh, we're going to take everyone's guns, man, it would be one of the most violent times in United States history, because people would actually probably they would try to shoot the cops from no one's just they're not just gonna let you take their guns.
Exactly, yeah.
And so the thing is, we believe it's our fundamental right to have weapons, right? And also I say, so one, you have to look at that. It's in our Constitution, and Americans believe that they have fundamental rights to certain things. And so when it comes to the Constitution, Americans are going to be very, very sensitive about it. Yeah. And then two, there's a different conversation needs to be had between more urban city-like places like Philly or New York or someplace like that, versus more rural areas where they hunt and things like that. In Philly, like I said, I think I've told you this before. In Philly, we're not if we're hunting anything, it's people. Yeah. Okay, so it's not we're not hunting deer. We're not going to catch anything and bring it home to eat or some shit like that, or to hang as trophies or whatever. So for gun regulation, in that sense, I think it's more of a practical thing. However, the problem is in places like New York and in Philly, sometimes those laws are very biased, and they're very racially biased and things like that. Because if you're in people everyone that I knew that they had a gun or that guns were around, they were mostly illegal anyway. Yeah. So it wasn't like these people were registered to carry guns anyway. And it really, a lot of times it was for protection. And so, because they live in a dangerous they live in a dangerous lifestyle, maybe they're drug dealers, and then you got to say, okay, well, then you can say, well, just don't be a drug dealer. But then that's not really that easy because of the systemic thing. You could go into this for hours and hours and hours of why people end up doing certain occupations such as dealing drugs because they're poor or blah, blah, blah. And then why are they poor? You can keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
And so in order for, you can't just have, like, you couldn't have gun reform in Philly in isolation to other issues that are happening.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure a lot of drug dealers or a lot of people who have illegal guns in Philly for protection, whatever, would be glad to get rid of them fucking guns if they didn't have to worry about getting shot or dying or something like that. Because so if you or if they weren't broke or some shit like that, so they would easily be like, okay, I'll give this shit up.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, okay, like, let's make the law stronger, because then what's going to happen, as always ends up happening, is more black people and people of color are just put in jail. Because America, the problem with the laws in America, like certain laws in America, there's no context to it. So it's like a person that has a gun maybe in Philly who's scared for their life because maybe their best friend just got killed, and and they know the people who did it, but then they're scared because they know the people are still coming for them or blah, blah, blah. It's different from a person like the Dylan dude, the one that shot up the church.
Yeah,
who was like a neo-Nazi and just wanted to fucking shoot the church up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's context is very different. In the same sense, there's a gun involved, and maybe someone gets shot and maybe someone gets killed or violence is happening. But there's very different causal factors that play into that. And until you put those into the equation of gun reform, and you're never going to have a solution.
But you could start by like doing better background checks and all the stuff. Like, if you're mentally ill, you're not allowed to get a gun. If you did like crimes before, you're not officially, of course, again, the legal weapons, but stuff like that, it's not hard to implement in my.
Well, I don't know. I think it would be difficult to implement again.
I don't. If you want to go to get a gun and you had a mental illness in the past, it's not hard to implement that. Just say no. Sorry. Like, if you are as a German, I don't understand it.
But it also depends. But then it depends on what mental illness you have. It depends on what if you had, I don't know, depression or suicidal or something like where you can be considered dangerous with a gun. Yeah. Right. But say, what if that was 20 years ago? And then you've had no episodes. You've been happy.
Still, I wouldn't give them a gun.
Yeah, but then again, then you get into an argument about rehabilitation and can people change? Can people be better? Right? I'm not saying
but do they need guns? That's like the big question. Like, rehabilitate and get healthy again? Yeah, sure, but why do you need a gun then? Like, why don't accept that you don't?
Yeah, I'm not saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that I think.
I think you're never gonna get rid of guns, but you can make it harder to get guns, especially for people.
But then again, just like drugs, when you make shit more difficult to get, people will find a way to get them. Like, that's why
I don't know why don't we have more shootings in Germany then? Why the only thing that was in the past year was the shooting in Munich where we got it off the dark web. But otherwise we don't have as many shootings as in the States, and we have stricter gun laws. The only thing we can get a gun, as far as I know, is when you go for like hunting and stuff like that. If you have your license for hunting, I think you can get a gun. I'm not sure, but otherwise you're not allowed to get any gun. And by the way, why do I need a fully automatic gun anyway? Like, I understand the protection, and I understand that you need it because other people have it too, but in the first case, why do you need a fully automatic weapon? Like, stuff like the military has. Back in the day, this guy that is like the biggest gun owner in the States, like, he has everything. He has missiles. It's like these trucks from Vietnam and all this shit. Like, why do you need that?
Well, okay, he's like an outlier of everyone.
Yeah, but still, still, like, why are you able to get this in the first place?
Yeah, I get it. Like I said, this is a complex.
It's not as easy as being like,
right. I think because I think Germany is a different culture, and we've talked about the difference between like the States. Like, even it's like if you. Anyone who's listening, which is probably like 5 or one, it's probably just us.
Shout out to our moms, by the way,
who are actually going to listen to this podcast. But if you Google like the weird population, which is Western educated, industrialized, what's the R? Rich and democratic. There you go. Western educated, industrialized, rich and democratic. It's an acronym for the weird population. And basically that includes Europe and everything, and the States and things like that. But within that, the United States itself is even weirder than every other. Like our psychology is fundamentally different from a lot of other psychologies across the globe, even within the other weird populations. So when you're talking about the States, in a way, we're a lot different than a lot. I'm not saying that's a great thing, but I'm saying,
yeah.
like it makes sense that you don't understand it coming from Germany, because Germany is a very different culture, and Europe is a very different culture, and y'all have a lot less people than we do, and the geography is even a little bit different. Like there's a lot of different factors, and like I said, our psychology is different, and so when you approach these things, you have to deal with them according to how the psychology of the people actually are, right? So what works in Germany or Australia, for example, when I think that they took guns away from Australia, like you can't necessarily think that, okay, that same thing is going to happen. That same thing is going to actually work in the States.
But you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, you have to start somewhere. Yeah, but I think
even if you say like that's a very special place, maybe you can't approach it in the ways we do it in Europe or in Australia. You have to start somewhere because the situation is just not good. So you have to look at some model to implement to make it better. Otherwise, you just have the status quo forever and be like, well, we have shootings, we have that, but we don't change anything because we're different. We can't do it like in Europe or in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I feel you. We definitely have to start somewhere.
Yeah,
but I feel like we're gonna have this gun talk
forever. I feel like nothing's gonna. If nothing really changes over my lifetime, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, me either. Yeah. But the moral of the story is, watch This Is America.
Yeah, it's an interesting video.
By Childish Gambino. It's really dope, even including watch some of the reaction videos and them explaining it, and because it's a very interesting concept that he did, and I think that it's going to bring a lot of awareness to it. But again, awareness without action will not produce any results at all. It'll just be a whole bunch of people talking about it and being upset about it without any major change. And I don't, at this point in my life, like I'm only 24, but at this point, I'm tired of hearing about how America's unfair and how, this and this for black people. Cause I get it. It's like, okay, well now listen, America has to do something about it. And like, we have to do shit about the problems. And it's not just black issues. It's the women, it's the Me Too movement and all the issues that we have, whether it's transgender issues and everything like that. Like, we have to start actually fucking doing something and actually try to like organize and meet to actually fix the problems and do practical things. Because in theory, the shit makes sense.
Yeah, you can talk as long as you want.
Exactly. But if you just all theory without practicality, like nothing is going to work. Right? Just like we're both scientists. If we just listen to theory all the time and we didn't actually do experiments, we wouldn't know shit. It would just be great theories that never
make
get
sense
tested.
in our head, but we don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to talk about next?
Yeah, when we're on the topic of Germany and the States, like, you lived in both of them. So,
well,
what did that teach you?
Here's the thing. It's very important. I stress it's very important to travel. Right?
Yeah.
Like I said before, and you will hear me say a lot because I rep where I'm from. I rep my hood all the time. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's a very, scary place when you grow up there. I mean, well, it's not scary to me now, but, because I'm, used to it. But basically, like, when I grew up, there was at least 300 murders every year, right? Yeah. And that's just murders. Like, that's not rapes or stabbings or fight. Like, that's just one statistic. And so it's very dangerous. You grow up learning that you could die at any day. Every time I went to school or walked around anywhere at night or even during the daytime, because you could get hit by a bullet that wasn't even intended for you. Like, I just knew every day that it could be your last day.
Yeah.
And so before that, I traveled to different states. Before I came to Germany for a Fulbright last year, and I've never been outside the country. I've been in other states, but it was different. So when I came to Germany and I traveled to other countries, I've been to the UK, where I'm currently now doing my PhD. I'm sure we'll get to that over other episodes because, you know where I'm at.
Yeah, sure, I know where you're at.
Special cloth here.
Yeah.
But
arrogant.
Shut up. But I've been to Amsterdam. I've been to Spain. Like I'm not. I wouldn't consider myself well traveled, but I've traveled and I've been able to see different things. And being in Germany, living there for a long time, and I live in the UK, like you just get much more culture. And you get to see how different people like behave and what their standards of life are, and you start realizing that if you just stay in one country, and this doesn't just go for the United States, but this goes for anywhere. If you only stayed in Germany for your entire life, you're going to be very close-minded to the world, and you're going to judge a lot of cultures negatively because you just haven't been there, you haven't experienced it. And like being in Germany, like and especially when Trump was elected, like I got to see the United States in a completely different way. I mean, I knew we were fucked up, but I saw like how crazy like our patriotism was, and everything was so different. And you get to and now when I go to different cultures, like even some things I may not agree with it, like a culture, but I don't judge it as being negative because I'm like, this is just their way of life, and as long as they're happy with it, I don't have to do it.
Yeah,
I could just say, okay, that's not for me. But it just gave me like a completely different experience traveling. Like I think you have to do that because, for example, like, I would have never met M here. So the story of how we met it was I was working in this lab, and I thought he was just this weird kid that was in the same office, and he didn't really talk, and I was like, oh, this guy's weird. So I'm like, all right. Like,
by the way, I had to do some studies, so I wasn't like being there for fun. So
he was a little weird. By the way.
Shut up.
So eventually, I party, which will maybe get into my stories eventually. And I was out one night, and I was crazy wasted, and I saw him. And of course, when I'm drunk, everyone is my best friend. So I went up to him and said, "Oh, like we need to hang out and whatever." And then I woke up the next morning, and I had him, his Facebook and my like I had a new friend, and it was like Moritz, and I was like, who the fuck is this? And then I remember, and then I looked in the picture and I realized, oh, this is him, and we've ever since then we hung out and we became like sort of best friends, and whether for better or worse, we created this podcast. So you would never. So you would. But the point is, you never would have. Yeah, this never would have happened if I never came to Germany or I was too scared to leave the United States.
Yeah.
Because you meet people. I've met some of my best closest friends here and in other places. You never know
what happens if you leave like your comfort home or
exactly.
your safe space and go out there in the world and see what's out there.
Yeah, so a lot of these things would have never happened. I never would have been where I'm at and like the perspective I have. And I have now. I'm really happy to say, not like I'm like stunting or shitting on people, but like I have friends from all around the world. And that never would have happened really if I'd stayed in Philly or I stayed in the States where I was comfortable. Yeah. Right? Like you should travel and you should get out there and do different things.
I think that's a lot of times people are afraid of exactly that. Just leaving their comfortable home and going out there. And they just take in whatever the outside gives them about different cultures or whatever. Like I think like a lot of people would benefit from just traveling a lot. Of course there's the point of money. It's not cheap to go.
Coming to Europe from the States.
Exactly. I've been to Scandinavia in the summer, and it's like crazy. And you think like Europe is expensive? Go to Scandinavia. It's like double or triple the price. So you have to afford it. But if you have the opportunity, you most definitely should go out there.
Yeah.
See it. Yeah.
And because you meet people, you fall in love. Oh man, I tell you.
And get your heart broken.
Oh man, I tell you, man, European heartbreak is like some other type of shit, man. I can deal with being heartbroken by an American girl, but anyway,
yeah.
So I'm heartbroken right now, in case you're hearing this. Shout out to everyone who breaks my heart.
Yeah, and I'm always the guy who has to pick him up again.
Yeah, exactly, man.
And be like, it's gonna get better.
Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, it never does, because then you meet another woman, and then you fall in love again, and life sucks. But anyway, so
let's move on to the last one.
Yeah, let's get off of love.
Yeah, it's gonna get sad if you're talking about that.
So the point is. This Google Duplex.
Yeah, it's the new AI assistant.
Yeah, you describe it because you don't want to talk to me. It's the
new AI system that basically like does, for example, hair appointments for you that you can tell, like, I need this appointment at this day on this time, and then it just calls whatever, and it basically interacts with the people. And that's very impressive. Like, it adjusts to the conversation. Like, if people not go straight for, like, yeah, we have a appointment on this time on this date, it can adjust. And for example, the one here I was impressed by was when they called the restaurant, and she said, like, you don't need a reservation for 4 people, I think it was. So then, like, the system adjusted and said, like, okay, fine. Okay, then I'll just show up or whatever. So that was very impressive. Like, not going straight for what you tell him, but then adjust to the conversation and going with the flow. And even, like, I don't know if that's, like, it looks to me like that's so programmed, and, like, this is, like, made up, because then it also says, like, like,
yeah, so
I'll look it up, and as well the hair appointment lady or whatever says, like, I'm gonna look up if I have time, and the assistant was like,
yeah, so I mean, it's trying to do nationalize. So I think it's cool. I do think that they said that they've had other conversations. So my thing is, like, I'm very interested in AI. So I'm doing my PhD now at the University of Cambridge in England, and I'm doing it in neuroscience. But it's in humans. But I have a very, very big interest in artificial intelligence. So that's something I care about a lot. So the only thing I would say, like, again, it seems very programmed, and they don't show you the problem with a lot of, like, AI triumphs, right? And even with, like, deep, like, Google, like, I think even Google and everything, they show you when it works, but they they don't show you necessarily when it doesn't work, right? So, like, it would have been cool if they showed, okay, what were the weaknesses of this, right? Like, they showed, okay, when they called I believe it was an Asian restaurant,
and
the person had an accent, the person had an accent, so they had that was cool, because it was like the person, her first language was not English, and so she wasn't a native English speaker, and so it was cool how the system was able to adapt to understand, to try to basically understand what she was trying to say, and it did a relatively good job. But imagine if the person had somewhat like of an Indian accent, or they were from a different background. Like, if they called some places in Philly, would they be able to understand like how we talk? And so it doesn't show you, like, I know there's probably a lot of stuff that's still missing, right? That it wouldn't get or wouldn't understand. So I even though I think it's cool, and every time the AI does something cool, of course I'm fucking happy. Go team AI. But I think that at the same time, you always have to sort of be a little skeptical about every AI advancement. You can't just say, oh, this is cool, because you have to know when it breaks down and when it doesn't work, because that could be, especially when it comes to, like, weapon systems or whatever, when it becomes more important, you should really emphasize the failure of AI and not emphasize the successes, because the failures.
Of course, but Google wouldn't do that, because they, of course, want to sell that.
Yeah, but however, I think that you improve a lot of AI with doing that. I think one of the problems with, like, sort of, this is kind of when competition goes bad, right? Like, when, like, AI has to be a multi-company, multinational, like, basically global thing. If we want to make something called artificial general intelligence that is going to be able to think like a human, it's going to take a lot of work from a lot of different people, right? And my dream is to work in an AI tech company like DeepMind. So, DeepMind, if you're listening, I love you. And also, if you want to sponsor this podcast, you definitely can do that as well. But if you don't sponsor the podcast, at least give me a job after I graduate. Thank you. But it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of effort. And if we hide the failures of it, it's not going to necessarily be. It's not going to progress. It's going to take even longer. And I think that a lot of people are looking at the money they can make. They're looking at the applications. But I think that if AI, truly general AI, comes online, it's gonna be like no other point in human history. I think that it would definitely mark probably the greatest invention that humankind has ever made.
I don't know. Industrial Revolution comes to mind, but certainly one of the biggest blunders.
I think it would be the biggest thing, the biggest accomplishment that humanity would ever have.
That's because you like AI.
But also because of the shut up. But also because of the potential things it could do.
Yeah, but same thing with the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, we're still fucked right now. So we did the
Yeah, I think like that's gonna solve everything.
I think
no.
My belief is that if AI doesn't destroy us, which I don't think it will, if it's really general and it has a good moral standing, it will be able to fix a lot of the world's problems because I think that it would be able to understand the complexities of a lot of these. It's just like gun reform. It'll be able to think in ways that we haven't been able to think of because it would have access to memory of a whole group of information, and if it could analyze that and synthesize it in a very interesting way, I think it could come up with solutions to things that we can't really think about. Like our problems right now are too complex, I believe, for us to really figure out. There's too many moving parts. There's too many things that one human being cannot put together in his or her mind. And yes, you can say, okay, well, you collaborate, you communicate, but there's limitations on communicating. Like, for example, you're German, I'm American, right? You can speak English, but I obviously, some concepts in English, I may not be able to communicate to you in German and vice versa, right? So we'll naturally have this barrier between us, whereas an AI theoretically will be able to communicate. It would be perfect information transfer between the systems, and they would be able to understand each other easily. The problem is getting them to actually do that, but that's the hurdle. But once it's done, they'd be able to communicate and synthesize and synchronize it in a way that we couldn't even dream of. And so I think that's how it can solve a lot of these issues.
A lot of them, but I think they can solve.
I think it can solve everything. I'm waiting for the dawn of AI. Singularity.
Probably not gonna happen in our
proud transhumanists over here. We'll probably talk about that too, but anyway, so we're gonna kind of call it for our first episode because we're new and we know that only our moms are going to listen to this episode.
Especially like at the end, probably not even our mom's going to be hearing that. So,
but we wanted to keep it short for the first one because we didn't want to give anyone like a long podcast and for our first one. So we hope that you like, and of course you could give us any feedback at cleverramblings. cleverramblings@gmail.com.
Yeah, or just visit our blog and comment there, or go on Facebook or Twitter and hit us. And our plan is to release an episode every week. So
we don't have a Facebook yet, do we?
We do. No. Well, we're planning on doing.
All right, we're still working on.
We're still working on.
But by the time this is released, we'll have everything.
We'll have everything set up. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's our plan. And of course, if you enjoyed it, like, feel free to listen to the next one.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, thank you.
All right.